Cowboys were absolutely dominant in the 90s. I'm talking about dynasty level. Only a couple teams have seen this success out of nowhere. How can one team be so dominant for so long but have so much controversy around them in the peak of their dynasty? Let's find out. Let's slow down for a minute. So in 1992, the Cowboys won their first Super Bowl, only 3 years removed from Jerry Jones buying the team in 1989.
Jerry Jones was on the phone, taking charge as he promised he would do. Among the items on his agenda were an interview with a New York radio station and a phone conversation with Coach Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson was a bona fide winner. This man took over Miami Hurricanes football, also in disarray, in 1987 and won the national championship. This team was physical, they were grinding, and they were winners, just like Jimmy Johnson was. On the other side of the spectrum, there was businessman Jerry Jones. He was a millionaire at the time in the 80s. That was huge. Jerry invested in oil and gas in Texas, and knowing how lucrative that field is, he made a small fortune.
Jerry Jones, the man who is reportedly trying to buy the Cowboys, is a successful businessman from Little Rock, Arkansas. Jones's interest in football dates back to the early 60s when he played for the University of Arkansas.
Jerry Jones played right guard for the University of Arkansas in 1965 with none other than college roommate Jimmy Johnson. With Jimmy Johnson reaching the pinnacle of college sports, winning the national championship, and Jerry Jones buying the Cowboys in 1989, it was a perfect fit for both of them. I'd like to present the Jerry Jones saga. So, Jerry Jones buys the Cowboys, hires Jimmy Johnson. The first thing he does after is draft Troy Aikman.
Is tasked to restore the Cowboys as the premier team in the NFL.
Pretty much a dream come true for me. I made no secrets about the fact that I would love to play for the Dallas Cowboys.
Flash forward 3 years later, the Super Bowl 26 in 1992. Dallas wins their first Super Bowl under Jimmy Johnson in the Jerry Jones saga, only 3 years after he bought the team in 1989. Things seemed to change in Dallas. This cemented the turnaround for this franchise, making it one of the most beloved franchises in all of sports. But it's not just the coaches or the owners that got things done. Let's bring in a breakdown of some of the players. Let's talk about, casually, one of the best running backs of all time in Emmitt Smith.
Who's very good.
Emmitt Smith was drafted in 1990 with the 17th overall selection by the Dallas Cowboys. Not only was he one of the best running backs in the league, he was one of the best running backs to ever play the game. Look at these stats from 1990 to 1995. That is just ludicrous. And he was the second running back taken off the board, if you can believe that. The first running back taken off the board was the second selection to none only than the Jets, the worst drafters possibly there is. That man was Blair Thomas. No slight on Blair Thomas, I mean no hate. There's legit a video I just found with all the Jets' horrible picks that they had for about 2 decades. Legit, from 1980 to 2000.
Obviously, the Jets know something that, the people up here don't.
Spoiler, they did not.
New York Jets select Blair Thomas, running back, Penn State.
Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that? You know damn well who I am. Who the fuck is that? Oh my God.
After that rant, I need to get that off my chest, was Michael Irvin. He was drafted a little bit before in 1988, even before Troy Aikman, but he made a quick name for himself in the league. Threw 3 touchdown games and highlights all over the place.
Just get your mind off the cold, man, because, I'm from Florida. I'm not used to this. This is the coldest stuff I've ever been in.
Aikman and Irvin clicked right away. They connected on a lot of passes together, and they won multiple Super Bowls together. Their chemistry was unmatched. Irvin had 641 catches for almost 10,000 yards and 54 touchdowns with Aikman. Let's jump forward to 1993. Super Bowl 27, Buffalo faces Dallas again. Buffalo, don't forget how good Buffalo was. They made it to the Super Bowl 3 times in a row and lost 3 times in a row, which is tragic. But without that, we wouldn't have this video we're talking about right here. So win-win. Dallas blows them out, unbelievably. Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson win their second Super Bowl in a row in 1993 together. And now the first downfall of the Cowboys.
Don't you somehow, Jimmy, wish you could have stayed with these guys one more time?
No. Just a point in my life that, I'm grinding on these guys.
That's a big fucking lie.
Jimmy Johnson was let go by Jerry Jones in 1994 following their Super Bowl win in 1993. This absurd act only could be summed up in one thing, is that the egos got the better of both of them. I don't pick one side, I think both of them were at fault. With the information I gathered up, it was that Jimmy Johnson was battling with Jerry Jones in full control of the team. Jerry Jones was taking credit for moves that Jimmy Johnson made and wanted to be a full-time GM of the Dallas Cowboys. Here's what Jimmy Johnson had to say about the whole thing.
Started having some problems. One of them, for instance, I traded for Tony Casillas. I turned on the television about 10 minutes later, and Jerry's doing a press conference and said, I traded for Tony Casillas. And I'm thinking, he didn't trade for Tony Casillas. I traded for Tony Casillas. It is a little bit of ego, but I told Jerry, that's what bothers me.
So ultimately, in 1994, Jerry Jones fires Jimmy Johnson. Advil did not sponsor this video, by the way.
In Dallas tonight, after all the speculation, it came down to what the parties say is a mutually agreed upon divorce. Now, you might think it was pretty unusual to replace the coach who led your team to 2 back-to-back Super Bowl championships. But that's exactly what Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones did today. Jimmy Johnson is out as Dallas head coach.
After 5 years of being the coach of Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones finally let go of Jimmy Johnson. Jerry Jones sometimes thought he was the coach, and while Jimmy Johnson sometimes thought he was the owner, which was a conflict of interest for both parties.
Jimmy, in any way, personality-wise, was so offensive to me that I couldn't live with it, then we'd make changes. That's just not the case.
That's a big fucking lie.
Enter new head coach Barry Switzer, legendary Oklahoma coach. The guy was retired for 5 years, and Jerry Jones is like, oh, let's resurrect him and make him the Cowboys coach.
Next to me is your next coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and he just happens to be as talented, and he happens to be as special for this situation at this time.
Today, I can say without question, this is the happiest day of my professional career and tenure is to be the head football coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Barry Switzer really did not know what he was walking into. He believed everyone on this team was adults and everyone was mature, which was definitely not the case.
Barry wanted to believe that at this level, that everybody was a man.
You're men, so I'm going to trust you to do the right thing. Oh, we had a couple guys that you probably shouldn't give that much trust to.
Barry was a very hands-off coach. There's a story that Michael Irvin took his whole team out till like 6 in the morning. They come to practice the next day. Everyone's hungover, and he calls practice for the day. That killed Troy Aikman.
I think Troy didn't like the way my style versus Jimmy's style. I knew that. Am I happy with my relationship with Aikman? As I've told you before, I don't know where Chuck Noll had a great relationship with Terry Bradshaw or not. It wasn't important. They won 4 Super Bowls, right? That's the bottom line.
And that's the bottom line. Why?
In 1994, the Cowboys weren't as nearly as good as they were in 1993. But that was about to change in 1995. In 1995, Cowboys went to Super Bowl 30 to face the Steelers. That 1995 Steelers team was very, very good. So this was going to be probably their toughest test. And at this point, Troy Aikman was basically coaching the team. Barry Switzer was hands-off, checked out, nothing to do with anything. The Cowboys would go on to win Super Bowl 30. Troy Aikman says, though, that their 1992 and 1993 team were better than this 95 team by far.
We're not good enough. We're not as good as we used to be.
Now, this is where the downhill slope happens. After 1995, the Cowboys have not won a Super Bowl since then. The Cowboys have been a very good regular season team, and when it comes time for the playoffs, they always fold and always choke, and Jerry Jones is freaking out in the press box, just like what we saw with the Tony Romo era and now with the Dak Prescott era. And this leads us to our next segment of regret. In 1996, the Carolina Panthers embarrassed the Cowboys. They were an expansion team on their second year, so that should have never happened. In 1997, they played the Rams and also lost to them in the playoffs. I think what Jerry Jones did to Jimmy Johnson and this team really shot him in the foot. Troy Aikman talks about the relationship that he had with Jimmy Johnson and the good cop, bad cop type of relationship that he had with the team.
When Jimmy was the head coach, it was a good cop, bad cop type relationship.
Hold on that damn football! God dog it!
He'd rip into guys, and guys are upset and frustrated, and I'd say, hey, just let it go. Let it go. Hey, don't worry about him. Let's just go practice. But deep down, I agreed with everything that he said.
Now, contrast that to what he had to say about Barry Switzer. It was very apparent because Troy Aikman was the coach of this team. He was the bad cop only.
On everybody's damn throat all the time. Why don't we have a coach that gets over there and does something about it? Instead, we want to go over and pat everybody on the ass, and they haven't done a job all night.
Cowboys, without ego and without all this coaching turmoil, probably could have won 4 to 5 championships in the 90s. And they should have. They had the team to do it. But everything got in the way. And for the last part of my video, let me segue to 2024. The Packers, the number 7 seed, had no business kind of being in the playoffs, led by Jordan Love, took on the 2nd seed Cowboys. This game was a legit blowout. Dallas kind of made it interesting at the end, but we kind of knew there was no shot. They let up 48 points at home to have their first home loss of the year, being their biggest game in the playoffs. Dak didn't deliver, and people are questioning whether he is the quarterback of the future. I want to end this video on a lighter note, though. Jimmy Johnson finally got his praise from the Dallas Cowboys and got into the Ring of Honor ceremony, which basically means he gets retired in the stadium, and it's a very big honor to have for a coach. Jimmy Johnson still loves the Cowboys, don't get me wrong. I think that's his pride and joy, and I know he's a fan of them. He ripped them a new one in the halftime show.
After Jordan Love, you can't give him that much time. You do what you're supposed to do, we'll win this game. We took a team that was the worst in the NFL. And in a short time, we won Super Bowls and became the team of the 90s.
There was the saga of the Cowboys. Jimmy Johnson finally got what he deserved in the Ring of Honor. If you like this video, please check out some of my other videos. Thank you all for stopping by.